Spring and George.
The honorary.
Okay. You want me to say the inappropriate joke again? Welcome, everybody. My name is Dan Harris. Jack Kornfield and Trudy Goodman are here, as well as George Mumford and Spring Washam. And we have a cavalcade of stars who will join us via Zoom. But as you know, we're here to celebrate two monumental birthdays for Jack and for Trudy. And I have to say, when I look at you guys, I think if this is what 80's like, I'm not that afraid. Seriously, I mean, are there two more radiant, healthy people that you can imagine? And by healthy, I mean that in the broadest sense of that word. And my guess is that this is what it looks like when you have lived a really good life, and they have served and helped countless people directly and indirectly, myself included. So I think the broadly shared sentiment here in the room and on Zoom is we are very glad both of you were born.
Thank you. We are too. Yeah.
So here's how this is going to go. I'm going to shut up in a minute and let Jack and Trudy talk for a bit, and then we're just going to have teachings from a series of teachers. That will go for a couple of hours. We may or may not take a break depending on how we're feeling, but it's going to be great. So thank you all for coming, and I'm going to hand it over to the birthday boy and girl. I get to talk at the end. Oh, Jack. Oh, you're talking to Jack.
Isn't really getting to talk until now.
They will turn it on.
It's on.
I'm on. Yes. Oh, good. Yeah. He was confused which husband was getting talked to or something like that. Anyway, I'm totally thrilled to be back here, and I've been in this church with InsightLA events over a couple of decades. It seemed like that, and then I look around and all these people that I know or love and who've done so much great things for InsightLA, and I see, you know, Bill sitting there and all these old friends. And it makes me very happy that we can gather together. And we talk to the folks who you will see on the screen, some of our, or they will come, or maybe they are on the screen already and participate. And we definitely didn't want everybody to say, oh, let's sing happy birthday and talk about how cool Trudy is or Jack, whatever did. But we said, you know, give us the real deal. Give us your favorite teachings for now, so that we're actually here in the spirit of what InsightLA was started with when you had your beach sit with two people by the ocean, Trudy, and it kind of grew, is that there's a medicine of the heart and spirit that's liberating and inspiring, and been really important in so many people's lives and shared in so many ways by those of us, many of us who are here. So in some way, it's really a celebration of the Dharma and the way that we've all grown together, both in community and in ourselves. And with that, I will stop speaking and let my better half carry on.
I know, I just keep staring at all of you. So happy to see you. This is the first time since the pandemic that we've been together like this. And it just feels familiar, and it feels new, and it feels really, really festive. I am just grateful to you all for coming, and just happy to be here. Can you hear me okay in back? How is it? A little bit louder, please, for some of the people. Well, it's pretty close. Does it need to be further down, or? How about this? Okay, if is this better? No, not really. Okay, I'll go like this. I'll push it to my mouth, but then you're going to hear me swallow. That's okay. Um, okay, full disclosure, our birthdays were really this summer, but we are celebrating with all of you today because this is the day we could do it, all of us together. And also, I do want to say this is so much a part of my life that I am double booked. Like I'm supposed to be teaching a retreat at Spirit Rock right now. And yes, I know it's horrible, but I'm really happy to be here with you. I want you to know that. But I do have to leave instantly when this is over and go to the airport. So usually I like to hang out and hug you. And I know I'll put on my mask, but today I have to go straight to the airport. So that said, the stressful piece out of the way, I would love for us to have a chance to practice together, to do some meditation. And I'll do a guided meditation, a little bit less silence than usual. I'll do a little more guidance than usual. And we'll have a good sit together. So we'll sit for about 20 minutes together. And when you're ready, just to take the the frame your body wants to be in to be comfortable. It's really important that you be comfortable. It's hard to relax and observe what's happening if you're uncomfortable. So please, yeah, make sure you're comfortable. And you can lower your gaze or close your eyes if you feel good doing that. And for people who are trickling in, just feel free to find a spot as you can. I'm glad you're here. I'm myself often late, so you're not late. Um, no, you're not late. I'll begin by ringing the bell, and it's really a great way to enter meditation, to just listen to the sound of the bell all the way to its vanishing point. And when I'm teaching kids, I ask them afterwards, where did the sound go? It's very mysterious. So let's sit together. I always like to begin by taking 3 intentional deep breaths, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in the aliveness of this moment and relaxing with the out breath. And one more time, taking a deep breath in and releasing any tension in the body as you breathe out. And now letting your breath move in its own natural rhythm. Not trying to control the length of the breath or anything, just letting the breath breathe you. And this is a meditation that I like to do. In fact, I love to do it. Um, it's really a meditation on being loved by your breath. By appreciating the breath is your lifelong companion. It is the only relationship that begins when we're born, stays with us all the way to the end. not breathing anymore, that's the end. And just keeping the breath company with your attentiveness. The breath keeps us company all day and all night. Ever loyal, ever present. Sensing and feeling the movement of the breath in the body. The rise and fall of the belly and the chest. Fullness of the inhalation. The warmth of the exhalation. The ebb and flow of the breath, our friend. Trying to pin our attention on the breath, but just resting lightly, resting our attention really lightly. With this ebb and flow of the breath. Noticing how you can sense and feel this movement of the breath and also hear sounds as they arise and pass away. And notice thoughts and feelings as they arise and pass away. The breath is exquisitely attuned to our states of mind and body, most intimately adjusting moment to moment, quieting down. Breath moves a little more slowly. As though the breath is gently caressing as it touches the nostrils, moves down into the belly, creating a sense of safety and trustworthiness. Whatever the quality of your breath right now, whether it's fast or slow, deep or shallow, long, short, move. The breath is keeping you alive. Just as it is, however it is. Imagine this act of breathing, of being breathed by this loving, attentive, lifelong companion. So we're not trying to drag the attention back to the breath, but simply to sit back. And you can even move your body back an inch or so, half an inch, into this posture of receptivity, receiving the breath. Receiving the moment. Receiving the thoughts and feelings, the mind stream. Receiving the sensations in the body. Receiving each breath as a gesture of loving kindness from life itself, breathing you. We can offer an inner gesture of loving kindness to ourselves, to each other in this room. May we and all beings be safe and protected. Each one of us, each person in this room, and everyone outside of this room. It's all beings everywhere without exception. May we and all beings live with the ease of an open heart. May we and all beings be truly happy and deeply peaceful. May we all be well. May we live with ease. May we appreciate our life just as it is. And may we love ourselves completely, just the way we are.
Thank you, Trudy. Okay, let's bring in our first virtual guest. This is a name and face I believe everybody in this room will recognize. Hi, Tara Brock. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and greetings, greetings. Love to each. And oh my gosh, Trudy, thank you. That was a beautiful meditation. Um, so I'm just delighted to be part of this. Celebrating beloveds, Jack and Trudy, being with all of you. Oh my gosh, those that are friends that are presenting, all of you that are here and online. And I took to heart the invitation for a favorite teaching. So I'm going to start with a short essay that is called The Difference Between Cats and Dogs. This is the dog first, saying, human life form, you keep me warm and give me food. You cater to my every need and mood. You give me hugs. You give me love. All of this you do for free. There's nothing you wouldn't do for me. Whatever the odds, therefore I conclude you must be God. Okay, the cat. Human life form, you keep me warm and give me food. You cater to my every mood. You give me hugs. You give me love. All this you do for free. There's nothing you wouldn't do for me. Whatever the odds, therefore I conclude I must be God. Okay, so the theme this illustrates, sort of, is that I've been really reflecting on a lot, is spiritual audacity, which arises really from a combo of the cat and dog trusting that God, Buddha nature, basic goodness shines through us all. And when that trust is there, it expresses as a kind of confidence and courage. So I've really been drawn to this term, spiritual audacity. It feels like it's what we most need in responding to the perils right now in our world. And it was coined by Rabbi Abraham Heschel. He wrote about it in a letter to John F. Kennedy during the Civil Rights Movement. He was reflecting on the centuries of oppression of Black people. And he said, this historical moment calls us to respond with moral grandeur and spiritual audacity, with courage rooted in conviction, spiritual conviction of the intrinsic worth of all beings. After he marched with Martin Luther King in Selma, he famously said, I felt my legs were praying. Great line. So spiritual audacity expresses as love in action. It's this daring, creative, fierce compassion that's dedicated to our collective liberation. Martin Luther King talked about it in terms of soul force. And Tibetans call this the lion's roar, this confidence that comes from really a trust in reality, that we are that reality. And it gives power to our actions. This is what transforms. So many here know Father Gregory Boyle, who's an embodiment of spiritual audacity, author of a number of books, including Tattoos on the Heart, several others, all wonderful. And he's known for his work in Los Angeles with gangs, with young people who had history of huge violence and trauma, and who before he started working with them were killing off each other, really. So he created Homeboy Industries, an amazing community filled with real love and trust. So I interviewed him last year, and my basic inquiry was, okay, so what makes this possible? And he talked about he'd be giving speeches to large groups, and he'd say two unwavering principles really guide Homeboy Industries in this community. And the first is that everyone is unshakably good, no exceptions. And the second is we belong to each other, no exceptions. Then he said, now, do I think all of our vexing and complex social dilemmas would disappear if we embrace these two notions? Yes, I do. I do. So here we have this powerful prescription for healing in these times, that if we can really see the divine or the sacred in all beings, if we can really trust our fundamental oneness, that we're inseparable, we'll have the courage, that kind of fearless heart that can act from love. And as we know, you probably are thinking this, it just completely goes against the currents that predominate right now in our society. I mean, we are charged up with bad othering, with considering others as morally inferior, less worthy, less human. I did a workshop recently, and one woman said, you know, trusting basic goodness is a hard sell these days. And then she said, I'm leaning towards Hobbes, you know, nasty, brutish. And the reality is, our world feels dangerous, and fear easily hijacks us. And when that happens, we're cut off from compassion, from feeling our larger belonging, and we do act nasty and brutish. Some years back, a friend went to Rwanda to the Genocide Memorial Center there, and she saw a quote. It was engraved on a plaque and sent it to me, and it said, "If you knew me and you really knew yourself, you would not have killed me." And isn't it true? You know, that genocide, cruelty, oppression, it's forgetting our belonging to each other, forgetting the preciousness of life. So spiritual audacity means that in the midst of dangerous times, inwardly, we keep turning towards the truth. Unshakable basic goodness dwells in all beings, that all belong, no exceptions, and that we dare to act from love. So I'll share with you a story that's really been inspiring me. I only heard it recently. This was told by Congressman John Lewis in 1961. He describes it. He and a colleague were at a bus station when a group of young white men attacked them. So they were beaten with baseball bats or badly injured, you know, bloodied. But Lewis and his friend didn't fight back. You know, they didn't press charges. They treated their wounds and got some rest and went on with their civil rights work. So 5 decades later, this is 2009, a white man about Lewis's age walked into the Capitol Hill office accompanied by his middle-aged son. And he said, "Mr. Lewis, my name is Elwin Watson. I'm one of the men who beat you at that bus station in 1961, and I want to atone for what I did. I've come to ask, will you forgive me?" And Lewis said simply, "I forgave him." We embraced, he, his son, and I. We all wept, and then we talked. And he finished the story, and then Lewis spoke again. It was softly, as if almost to himself, and he said, "People can change. People can change." So I'm sharing this because it feels like such a pure expression of the roots of spiritual audacity, this faith in the essence of what we are, this faith in the dignity and worth of all beings. And this is what gave him the courage all those decades to keep walking forward, you know, despite everything that he had seen that spoke to our capacity for cruelty and injustice and hate. So spiritual audacity is really at the heart of the Buddha's life and teachings. I mean, proclaiming this radical truth that our true nature is here, now, always, that we can awaken to this luminosity and love, and that even with dust in our eyes, this freedom is possible. He said, "I would not teach this if it were not possible." So this faith that we all have the capacity to wake up, people can change. We can manifest unshakable goodness. And in times of peril, we can, and I'm speaking of now, dare to choose love. So in recent days, I'm seeing this huge range of expressions of this daring, of spiritual audacity all around me. I'm just speaking right here what friends in the DC area, opening places of worship and homes to undocumented immigrants. A 78-year-old I know who plans to volunteer as a poll worker this November. A friend told me that in her synagogue, they had broken the silence, and with true compassion for all who are suffering, they had named the genocide in Gaza as a call to conscience. People have sent me their poems, you know, creating art that remembers and resists. People in justice, system, government are refusing to bend in resignation or denial or fear. So we're talking about many coming to protest, legs praying. Moral grandeur and spiritual audacity. We can grow these qualities in our own hearts and with each other, and it's what our world needs. So I want to pause for just a moment and just invite you to reflect, to imagine and sense what a growing spiritual audacity might feel and look like in your life. That confidence, that daring, that courage to act from love. How might it deepen? What would it be like? And to imagine the potential, the soul force when we join hands to serve from that love, from that light. Thich Nhat Hanh writes this. He says, "This, my dear, is the greatest challenge to being alive, to witness injustice in the world, cruelty, violence, and not allow it to consume our light." To witness injustice in this world and not allow it to consume our light. So here we are, and our light is our courage, it's our honesty, it's our care, it's our presence, and it's also our wonder and gratitude and joy. And so in this moment, here we are celebrating Jack and Trudy, who are some of the most spiritually audacious, light-filled human teachers that I know. I mean, really, both wide awake, facing the unraveling of our world and nurturing the light, serving from this amazing love for life in their teaching, in their writing, and also in the spirit they bring to living. I mean, they may be in their 8th decade. We're not counting days or months right now, but chronologically speaking, but don't let the numbers fool you. I mean, if you know them, you've met their inner teens, right? Right? You've heard of that phrase, being torn between the desire to serve and the desire to savor. I don't think they're torn. I think these audacious bodhisattvas are here for all of it, bringing their hearts and wisdom and humor and joy to our world. So a deep, loving bow to my dear ones, Jack and Trudy, bodhisattvas who help nourish the light. And now, friends, we get to take a few minutes so you can meet others who are right here. And this is in place in the church. And the invitation is to turn to someone next to you. And by the way, if you end up in threes, that may happen. Just see how you can work it out. To introduce yourselves. And as part of that, here's an inquiry to ask and find out from each other what right now is nourishing your light, helping you in holding and responding to the world. What's nourishing your light? So you have 3 minutes and you'll be timed, and the crew here will tell you when it's time, but please turn to someone and begin and enjoy.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you so much.
I'm a cat person, but less. I asked this in camp. Well, it seems like, but always about that. Always about very, very passive about management and my brother. They can get together. Okay. Okay. When you're ready, let's come back into one pointed group attention, and we're going to point that attention at Mr. George Mumford. First of all, big thank you to Tara Brock, who, as we all just witnessed, is amazing. Equally amazing is George Mumford.
Hello, I was trying to it's great to be here, and it's interesting. Of course, I wouldn't be here the way I am if it wasn't for all the folks on this podium and all of you folks. It takes a village. And the interesting thing is, I want to share today. I have this story. So I wrote a book called The Mindful Athlete, Secrets of Pure Performance about 10 years ago. And can you hear me now? Yeah. So I have to hold the mic closer. So I wrote the book 10 years ago, and it's interesting. One of the things I talked about in that book is the need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And so for the last 6, going into the 7th year, I've been doing this online course called the Mindful Athlete Course Online. And what we decided to do at some point was have a theme for each cohort. And we have a cohort coming up on the 15th of next month. And we decided to name the theme Getting Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. So that's interesting. Okay. So this is going to be a really big test here because I have a tendency to drop the mic, and I have no reason to drop the mic. I didn't do anything great yet. But yes. So anyway, one of the things I noticed was when I decided I want to work on a particular spiritual aspect of my life, that the universe gives me lessons. This idea of being in a growth mindset, and when something happens, the question is, what's the lesson? And so to me, when I ask, well, how am I going to teach this course on getting comfortable being uncomfortable? And so about 6 weeks ago, I got shingles. And it wasn't just shingles. Actually, I was here in LA. I had to go to urgent care because my face was drooping. The shingles got into my trigeminal nerve. So I have a lot of nerve pain. And so for the last 6 weeks, I've been just breathing in and breathing out and knowing it. Now, and it's interesting because in the past, I just celebrated 41 years of sobriety. Thank you. And I got into this because of pain. People say, well, George, did you get a spiritual awakening or whatever? No, I had what I call the AOF method of motivation, which is ass on fire. I had a lot of pain. And so I had chronic pain back then. And it was, migraine headaches and the back pain, as well as the emotional pain of being in recovery and becoming responsible for my life. And so then you fast forward 40 years and I've been going through all kinds of experiences. And there's been times when I had to just the whole weekend when I left my job to do something else, all I could do is breathe in and breathe out all weekend. And it kept me in the moment and it allowed me to get through that. So now here I am having this pain and doing it again, breathing in, breathing out and knowing it. And at the same time, I'm very busy and there's a lot of things that I do and a lot of experiences. I just buried my sister last week. So it's been a lot of difficulties going through, being in life. But the reality is I feel like I have more compassion and my practice has deepened. And just being able to talk to you folks about it, because I think the reality is this. When I talk about the pain I went through way back when, that's history. I'm going back and I'm thinking of it. But right now, I'm talking about chronic pain and being able to have a practice that allows us to say yes to it, embrace it, and ask, what's the lesson? And so now I'm actually experiencing it in real time right now. And what helps me deal with that is, and I remember reading Viktor Frankl, and he says, when you find meaning in suffering, it ceases to be suffering. And so for me, I've taken this as an opportunity to really learn and how to be more of service, to really talk about chronic pain in a direct experiential way, like right now in my face, literally in my face. And being able to do it, and people say, oh, George, sorry you're going through that. And part of me is like, thank you for saying that. But, spiritually, I'm great. Spiritually, I'm great. Whenever I can forget myself in service, when I can forget myself in service, that's when I find myself. And so this joyism of forgetting myself, and this is what I did in recovery, instead of focusing on my pain, focusing on looking at it in a way like, okay, what's the lesson here? How can I use this as an opportunity to learn something for the greatest good? And so that's what I'm doing, and my mouth is a little bit dry. But I'm so happy to be here, and I wanted to talk about this. And so the question is, how do you do it? Has anyone asked that question? Yes. And so this idea of realizing that the way I do it is you teach it and you talk about it and you share it. I share my experience, strength, and hope, and say, even though some days are better than others, like 2 weeks ago, I was on Oxy for 2 weeks because it was tremendously painful. And being a substance abuser in recovery, that's a tricky beast. But at the same time, I've been doing this for 40 years. And the thing about it is, this practice is reminding me, what Ty was talking about, this radical spirituality, is this idea of saying yes to whatever comes up, embracing it, and choosing peace, choosing compassion, choosing love, and getting beyond this illusion of separateness, that we are all connected. And so by me sharing it and saying, hey, it's okay. And I don't know if you folks realize it, but being an empath, being in this country And seeing what's going on now is very, very painful. And so being able to embrace that and just think about how can I, you know, like I work with a lot of athletes. And so we always talk about this idea of making the next play. Do what you know to do, and the next step will be given to you. And making the next play is just breathing in, breathing out, and knowing it. And then, in spite of that, seeing somebody and seeing the masterpiece, the divine spark in them. So when I look out here, I see masterpieces. I see divine sparks. I don't see anybody that needs to be fixed. I just think we need to figure out how to unlock, how to be who we are, and to share that with others. And so I don't know if I want to talk a lot more than that, but this simple practice of bare awareness, just whatever's going on, we have this ability to just sit back and just breathe in and breathe out and knowing it. And just saying right now, I know I'm sitting, I know I'm breathing in, I know I'm breathing out, and I'm not going to worry about yesterday or tomorrow. I just need to take care of this moment. And it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to try to do it when the nervous system is programmed to have aversion to unpleasantness or discomfort. And so what the practice is really about for me is being able to say yes to the discomfort and so that it becomes comfortable. And I went back to reading The Road Less Traveled, and it begins with life is difficult. Of course, the Buddha said that. And his idea is, but if I can, and I'm paraphrasing, but if I can accept and understand that life is difficult, it is no longer difficult. And so this idea of, I don't know about you folks, but when I was active, being an alcoholic and substance abuser, I was uncomfortable a lot. But that that discomfort led to more anguish and sadness and pain. And so now I could embrace discomfort that leads to peace, that leads to feeling connected, that leads to making a difference for the greatest good. So I don't even really know if I want to say any more than that, but this practice is profound, and you don't have to really say, okay, I got to do all of these things and learn all that, get in the head. To me, it's helpful to get out of the head and just be in the body and just breathe in and breathe out and allow that to arise and fade away. Because that's been my experience, is when I can do that, and we'll do a little practice when I finish, when I can just get out of my head and just be with whatever it is and create space for it. It arises and fades away. And even now, with what I'm going through, I'm still going through it, and sometimes it's better, some days are better than others, but it's there. The pain is there. It's constant. Discomfort is different. I don't know if it'll go away or if it'll be the same, but I do know with this, I can choose to relate to it in a way that gives me peace and ease. And maybe that's the ultimate freedom, as Viktor Frankl talked about, choosing my response, my attitude, and whether I'm going to use it as an opportunity to help others, or am I going to wallow in it and become identified with it, where I become a victim. And I don't think that's the best way for me to help others and myself. So just being able to let that go. So this is interesting, but be careful what you ask for. I'm just going to say that. You know, but at the same time, I'm up for it because that's what we need. We need that. And so I don't know what the time is, but I think I'm done with talking, and let's just do a little practice, a little simple practice. And I kind of borrowed a little bit from most of these teachers, you know, Sharon and everyone, and this idea of arriving. So if you can become aware of the fact that you are sitting, and you know, you can be upright or whatever, but just noticing you're sitting, and you can feel it. It's a felt sense of sitting, being in your body and inside out, and just noticing the felt sense of sitting, and then becoming aware of breathing. And we want to do the belly breathing, of breathing through your nose and your belly expanding. And as you breathe in, you can experience the entire body as you breathe in, down to your feet and out to your thumbs. And it's like you're enveloped in skin. So just imagine the skin expanding and contracting as you breathe in and breathe out. Breathing in, knowing I'm sitting and breathing, breathing out. I know I'm sitting and breathing. And so that sounds so simple, but it's not a thought about it. The thought gets you there. But once you get there, like if I say, think about your right palm, you go to the palm, but then you drop down below the concept of a palm to the bare sensations, the tingling, whatever's there. And so you do that with your whole body, breathing in, your mind wanders off just by thinking about your body and the breath, you go there. So it becomes this anchor, this way of just anchoring ourselves in the moment. So breathing in, experiencing the body in the seated posture, breathing out. So you can do this in any posture, even while we're here together. You can every once in a while ask yourself, you know, where's your mind? Is it in with your body and the breath, or is it involved in thoughts, images, sounds? And so the image I like to offer is taking a marble and dropping it into the ocean. So what we are really doing is stopping, dropping, and as that pebble is moving down towards the ocean bottom, there's a calming that happens as a consequence of stopping and dropping. And then once it reaches the ocean bottom, there's a resting, there's a being held, and this idea of stopping, dropping, calming, resting. Then in the resting, there's an ability to observe whatever is in front of us, whether it's a school of fish or a stingray or a swimmer. We have this ability to just notice, relax, and allow or let go. So our job is not to push anything away or to pull anything towards us or to even try to interpret what's going on or get involved in what is this. It's just a matter of just noticing, relaxing, letting go. So we allow things to come and go. We're not trying to figure out what they are. We're just being still and silent. And so if you think about it as a metaphor, we're that marble, but at the same time, it could be choppy at the surface, but down below is always quiet and still. And there's the ease and the peace, but we have to be still to know it. We have to be willing to not habitually move towards what is pleasant, away from what is unpleasant, or space out because we're not interested in anything. I'm not talking about equanimity, I'm talking about indifference. So this idea of stopping, dropping, calming, resting, and just being able to be in that, be centered, be still. And what I've discovered is we have access to creativity and wisdom that's going beyond all research. And sometimes people experience this when they get into the flow of the zone where it's effortless and things are just happening because we're allowing them to, and we're allowing our nature to express itself without trying to think our way into something, but just allowing, noticing, relaxing, letting go. So we'll take a few more moments of just sitting and breathing and knowing it. And when you're ready, just breathing in, experiencing the entire body. And as you breathe out, letting go of the body, letting go of the breath, and just opening your eyes. And we are here now.
Thank you, George. George Mumford. Our next guest is coming to us via pre-recorded Zoom, and his name is Joseph Goldstein. Let's play the clip.
Happy birthday, Jack and Trudy. Welcome to the 80s Club. Although you asked us to offer a short teaching rather than to sing your praises, I can't help but acknowledge the great contribution both of you have made to the spread of Dharma in the West. And when I think of you both, two qualities immediately come to mind. Trudy, it is your great joyful enthusiasm for the Dharma, which is really contagious. And Jack, it's your almost unstoppable creativity in manifestation. You're really a great Dharma team. So as a short Dharma offering in honor of your birthdays, someone once came to Suzuki Roshi and said, "Would you please explain Buddhism in a nutshell?" I've been listening to lectures and talks for years, and I still don't quite understand. What is the essence? Roshi thought for a moment and said, everything changes. And of course, we all know this intellectually, especially as we age, and I just have experienced the many changes of our lives. But the challenge is, even though we know it intellectually, are we actually manifesting it in our lives? I came across one phrase in the suttas that helped bring this teaching to life in a very vivid way, because the phrase in English is a bit unusual. And so it just gave a different flavor or nuance to this obvious truth of change. With regard to change and impermanence, the Buddha said, everything is always becoming otherwise. Things are always becoming otherwise. And when we're paying attention, we can see this even on a moment-to-moment level. We might be going for a walk and all of a sudden there's a little twitch or pain in our knee. Oh, everything is always becoming otherwise. So this really reflects the understanding that anything can happen anytime. We don't know how things will unfold. Anything can happen anytime, but instead of this being the cause perhaps of fear or anxiety, when we open to the truth of this, we can relax back into a much greater openness and acceptance of this great truth of change. And so our entire relationship to the truth of change, to the fact of change, to the obvious nature of change, becomes one of equanimity, becomes one of investigation and exploration. We're really exploring the nature of things. Another phrase that I found helpful in putting the Buddha's teachings into practice is, don't waste your suffering. Especially as we age, this truth of suffering, which is really the first noble truth, just becomes so obvious. And it was very clearly expressed in a line I came across online someplace, I don't remember now exactly where it described the first noble truth as the inevitability of unwanted experiences. The inevitability of unwanted experiences. And of course, and perhaps especially as we age, this becomes so clear. No one goes through life without, at different times, having experiences that are unwanted. But the question is, how then do we relate to these experiences? Are they the cause of suffering in our lives, or are they the cause of greater freedom? Unwanted experiences are inevitable. But if we begin to investigate our minds in relationship to them, we can really begin to understand the causes of suffering in our minds and the possibilities of relating to them with greater equanimity, with greater openness. Don't waste your suffering means that we realize that we have agency in our lives. Thich Nhat Hanh expressed this so succinctly and beautifully when he said, happiness is available. Please help yourselves to it. Happiness is available. Please help yourselves to it. So in one way, this is what our practice is about. helping ourselves to happiness, to greater happiness. The Buddha was quite explicit about the causes of suffering, wanting or craving in the mind, the second noble truth. In one meditation, this goes back quite a few years, as I was sitting contemplating the second and third noble truth, craving and the end of craving, I had a little epiphany, which was, instead of thinking of the end of craving as being some far-off goal, yes, maybe after years and years and years of practice, or maybe many lifetimes of practice, I may come to the end of craving, I began to see that we can make the end of craving our practice in the moment. That is precisely our practice in the mind. And this understanding was reinforced in another meditation when a line from the suttas occurred to me. And this is a line that appears frequently, and very often when people would hear this line, they would get enlightened. So here's our chance. Whatever has the nature to arise will also pass away. Whatever has the nature to arise will also pass away. So of course I had read this many times and thought I understood it, on an intellectual level. Yes, everything changes. But because it arose in the meditation, it's like it was part of the unfolding process itself. The meaning of that phrase became very vivid. It's everything I'm experiencing right now, whatever has the nature to arise will also pass away. Therefore, there's nothing to want, there's nothing to expect. Because whatever expectations I have in my practice, they will also pass away. So in that moment, in the realization, oh, therefore there's nothing to want, I could feel my mind settle back from a leaning into the next moment, from a wanting that I didn't even know was there. And in that moment of settling back, of not leaning into the process, the mind settled into a much greater place of ease and openness, and we might even call it, glimpses or a taste of freedom. So the last aspect of the Dharma that both of you manifest so clearly was expressed by one Tibetan teacher when he was asked, is the self real? And he said, yes, the self is real, but not really real. You exaggerate it. So yes, on one level, the self is real. And this is the understanding or the basis for compassion arising within us. Compassion arises in relationship to the suffering in ourselves or the suffering of fellow beings. So the concept of being or of self on that level is very real, and it inspires us to act and to engage in the world. And of course, this is something you both do so beautifully. And at the same time, the self is not really real, because the wisdom of emptiness, we might say of selflessness, pervades all experience. So our practice, I think in a very fundamental way, is the integration of these two levels of understanding. Yes, the self is real, and that's the basis for our engagement with the world, and at the same time it's not really real, right? Because we understand the selfless nature of all things. So then the interesting question is, how do these two work together? And Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche expressed it very clearly. He said, when you realize the empty nature of phenomena, the energy to bring about the good of others dawns uncontrived and effortless. And both of you manifest this integration so beautifully. Unless we think that this is only for great saints or people far along the path, I want to quote or read a haiku by the great Japanese poet Issa, which really demonstrates that this Dharma understanding of compassion and emptiness, of self and selflessness, is something we can all explore. He said, New Year's Day, everything is in blossom. I feel about average. I love that. We're all about average, and we can all manifest a beautiful and compassionate understanding in ourselves and in relationship to others. So both of you do this so well, fully engaged in life with a great lightness of being. So wishing you both every happiness up to and including full enlightenment, and may it be for the welfare and benefit of all. Happy birthday.
So now we have some time for Jack and Trudy to chop it up a little bit. You're looking at me with some surprise.
Do you want to stand up for a moment? Why don't you stand up for a moment and stretch?
Um,
Yeah, no, I don't want to experience. Teamwork makes the dream work. Because sometimes I perform it. Well, you didn't turn the page. Oh yeah, yeah. What about that?
It's nice to see you talk to each other. Just the sense of community itself, of being together, is a cause for celebration.
it really is. Yeah, it makes me very happy, both of us very happy. And after all these really beautiful teachings, I also want to acknowledge that we're here to celebrate. Yes, we're here to celebrate our birthdays, but we're also here uh, because of InsightLA and because of the work of many hands that made this gathering possible. I want to give a shout out to our director, Melissa, to Alexis, to everybody who worked hard. Yeah. Because for us, it's a great joy. And for the team that works on this, it's a little stressful. So thank you for that. Alexis is saying, no, not at all. And it also reminds me of when I started InsightLA. Jack mentioned there were two people in the very first meditation group that we had. Fred and Steve, although Fred tells me there was somebody else, but I don't remember that person. I just remember Fred and Steve, and that they were the first. And this was not at the beginning. Yes, it was a kind of solo heroic thing to try and create something here in LA. Other people, really good teachers, had tried before me and did not last. It's a hardship post for Dharma teachers for many reasons. Um, and really, I don't think it was just the reason I stuck it out, frankly, is because I had family here and I came here for family reasons to help the family members that needed help. So I had the motivation to stay. And I'm grateful for that because, yes, because for 23 years, uh, we have had a very strong, growing community. And it really wasn't this solitary hero's journey after the beginning, the first couple of years maybe, but it was also being joined by wonderful people all the way along, wonderful teams of people who put on wonderful successions of events here and other places in the city. And I'll just want to tell you the story of the first retreat, because after that sitting group grew to maybe, I don't know, maybe 12 or 15 people. Yes, Joseph is right. I have a lot of enthusiasm for the Dharma. And I'm like, okay, we're ready to have a retreat. And it was going to be, it was planned for a Saturday. And thanks to Susan Kaiser Greenland, who lent me her law office, and we would just push the furniture aside and that Saturday, Fred and Steve were there and I. And about 10, we started at 9, about 10 or 10:30, another woman rolled in, very breathless. But here's the thing, I had never noticed that between what looked like just the walls, there was a gap between the walls and the ceiling so that we could hear everything that happened in the lobby. But at evening in the sitting group, there was never anybody in the lobby. And this day they were having some kind of seminar on mold control. We learned about green mold and black mold, and we stuck it out. But there's nothing harder when you're trying to meditate than human voices. You can really put up with, you can include in your practice lots of different noises, but if you can hear the words that people are saying, that's rough. Were maybe not really fascinating, but also weirdly compelling. And so we had lunch. And after the first sit after lunch, I said, I think it's okay if we go home. They were so grateful. We packed up. And so I just tell you this story because there's so many stories like that of the ups and downs of creating this community together. And I spent the whole first year giving Dharma talks about the importance of Sangha or community. Why? Because I was lonely here in LA. I came here not knowing anybody. Well, I had some contacts, but I didn't really know anybody except the family members I came to help who were not in my professional field as a psychotherapist or anything. And I would be driving around in my car, and this was before my sister taught me that you can group your errands. And I would spend the entire Saturday just like doing 2 errands or 3, maybe if I was lucky. And I was driving around in my car and thinking, if I feel isolated and encapsulated in this steel thing, other people must feel the same way. And you come to this point in your practice, and you've all experienced this, when you realize that what you feel is what humans feel. That it's not because there's something wrong with you. You shouldn't have broken up. You shouldn't have taken that job. It's that first noble truth. It's what humans feel. And then you have the freedom, when you're not blaming and shaming yourself, to do something about it and to join with other humans. And especially at this time in our country, when we're witnessing really horrible things, that no matter what your political opinions are, we're chasing down human beings and hunting them and detaining them and building concentration camps for them. And I'm sorry, there's so many things that I'm not going to list them all because they're too horrible. But what we learn in our practice is to hold both the horribleness and the beauty of a gathering like this. And we don't have to let the awfulness ruin the joy and the happiness of the moments that we have together, that we are blessed to have together. And we don't have to pretend that the awfulness isn't happening. The beauty of this practice is we learn to be able to hold opposites in the same heart: love and hate, joy and sorrow. My first teacher was a Korean Zen master who said, don't make a line. Like, it's all a process, a living, dynamic, changing process. Sometimes I love Jack so much, right? And then there's the other times. And they're very few, of course, and very far between. But um, but those moments of hate can coexist with the love. And I'm kind of joking now, but it's also true if you've ever lived for a long time with anybody, especially your family, you do experience what I would call the alternation of moods and um, emotions. So we learn how we can keep our hearts steady through the ups and downs of relationship, of our world. We may be at the end of an era. The world we knew may not be coming back. We don't know what's coming next. There's lots of nervousness and uncertainty, and we don't know. So having the blessing of a place where we can rest our hearts and rest our minds in the not knowing. And as George said, just take care of this moment. Because when we take care of this moment, the Buddha said, if you want to know your future, look at right now. If we take care of this moment, we are also taking care of the next moment. And as I said, freeing our hearts to be able to help out in whatever way is, your particular talent or inclination or karmic affinity to do. I don't know if I have to give this to Jack now. Do I have more time or not? We had 25 minutes. I'm very time challenged. This is the great thing about ADD. You are always living in a timeless realm, completely outside of time. And it's pleasurable until you have to exist in the world. And then it's nerve-wracking. Yeah, then it's nerve-wracking. But there are gifts, and one of the gifts is the timelessness of it all. So I think it probably is Jack's turn. We really have gotten good at teaching together and taking turns. even if we don't always want to stop talking, we do. And I just want to end with this blessing. May we and all beings learn to hold these opposites in our hearts, to let them peacefully coexist in the same heart, this one, the kindness, the anger, all of it. And as John Kabat-Zinn, who will be speaking shortly, he says the full catastrophe, borrowed from Zorba the Greek, the full catastrophe. May we grow our capacity to hold it all in our hearts and let it strengthen us, as my friend was just talking about. And it reminds me of this wonderful Rastafarian anthem that in the 70s, we used to listen to Jimmy Cliff sing By the Rivers of Babylon. Do you remember that? Some of you are old enough to remember that. And I really feel I've been thinking, that song has been going through my head, and I'll spare you, I won't sing it, but it's really about when we sit by the rivers of Babylon, which is the rivers of our experience, and Babylon stands for whatever is oppressing us at this time in our lives and our country and our world. We sit down and weep. And then the song goes on to say, may the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable. And I would add, may they help us sustain each other. And as we sustain each other, we're sustaining our country and our world on what Nelson Mandela called this long walk to freedom. So here we are. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
I'm really enjoying this. Again, I'm so happy to see you all. This is like party time, dear friends. And also to hear the sweetness of the Dharma from Tara and Joseph and George and Trudy, each in slightly different facets of the crystal, but in many ways saying the same thing. So when I thought about, okay, you've got 10 minutes or 12 minutes to talk about a Dharma practice that matters to me, the teacher that Trudy mentioned, Seungsan Sansanim, who I also studied with, the Korean Zen master, and where I would sit with Trudy and John Kabat-Zinn back in the early 70s. And he was the master of Dharma sound bites. But students would be in dialogue with him about various things, the Zen master. And periodically he would look and he'd say, you already understand. They'd ask him different kinds of questions and concerns. And he would say, you already understand. And it's kind of an amazing statement because it has, as Trudy would say, the added charm of being true. So if you look in the 7 factors of enlightenment, one of the qualities that's mentioned along with joy and concentration and equanimity and mindfulness and so forth is Dhammavichaya, which means investigation or discovery or kind of a deep listening. And I've come to love it a great deal because in my teaching these days, when I was a young teacher, people would ask questions and I would give them the answer, for better or for worse. But now when people ask me a question, and I kind of love the dialogue that happens, I'll say, what makes you ask? And somebody will say, well, tell me about karma. I could talk for an hour about ahosi karma and all the different kinds of karma, right? But when I say, what makes you ask? And they'll say, well, my sister just died in a car accident, or my nephew just won the lottery, or, this happened to my whatever friend was living in Afghanistan and so forth. And the answer becomes entirely different. And if you read in the Buddhist text, a lot of the times people would come up and they say, I heard you're a Buddha. And he'd say yes. And they'd ask a question, and his response would be a question. What do you think? Do you think that thing you asked, is that permanent? Will that last? Or they would ask, is this the right way to be? He said, if people act in this way, how do you think the family and circumstance you're in will respond to it? And he would throw it back to them. So people will ask me something, and I'll say back, what makes you ask? And then they'll say something, and then it goes on, and I say, well, tell me, how does that feel to you? It might be a question about some difficulty in their family or a political difficulty. Where do you hold it in your body? What story does it tell? What do you believe about it? What is it like when you believe that story? What is it like when you don't believe that story? Or you feel that in your body, how do you hold it? What would happen if you take that fear or worry or pain or whatever you're asking about, and you feel it here in your body? What happens if you wrap it in compassion? What does it do? Oh, it softens. So you can start to invite people to get close to their experience that we've turned away from, the kind of thing George was talking about and Joseph in his own way. And then the next interesting thing is, what does it want to teach you, or what can you learn from it? Get quiet. It might be in a dialogue, or you sit and you get quiet and you pay attention to your breath, loving the breath, being with the body with its pain and its pleasure. And when you get a little quieter still, you can ask, I'll ask you now, what does your body want you to remember today? What is really important that your body wants you to pay attention to or learn from? And if we pause and you really ask what it needs, what's the understanding, it doesn't take very long, does it? It gives you an answer about how you eat or how you're living or what you should be doing or not. The same in your heart. If you get quiet and you meditate, which means you're paying attention and being present, and you have this Dhammavichaya, this curiosity, then you can ask your heart, well, there's the grief and the longing and the love and the anxiety. What do I need to know right now that's really wise, or that's really important, or what have I forgot to pay attention to? What have you not paid attention to in your heart that's calling to you, that would bring some freedom or understanding? And your heart will answer when you get quiet. And then, because I like to work in groups, and people will say, oh, this grief happened, or this worry, this anxiety, and your body or your heart or so will give you an answer. I'll say, what have other people learned about this? And the hands go up, and all of a sudden there's kind of crowdsourced wisdom, right? However you're dealing with that, four other people say, well, this is how I've dealt with this and how I understand. And then it can go even deeper. And you can get quiet and listen and take the dilemmas of your life or your family or the society around you and raise the question, if you were the Buddha, or if you were Kuan Yin, the goddess of infinite compassion, right now, how would you respond? What message comes? You can know. What would freedom be like even this very day in your life? Or compassion, great compassion. What's calling? And if you were that, which you are, by the way, sorry, I forgot that's the little plot change there thing, that you actually are the one who knows, the awakened one, the compassionate one. You forget sometimes, I know that. Your family members will remind you, or they help you to, anyway, but there you are. You do know. This is Ansanim. You already understand. And you don't have to go to a 3-year Tibetan retreat, although they're wonderful, to get to the end of that and then ask those questions, or the end of a life of practice. The quality of deep listening, of curiosity, and the invitation for wisdom is always here. And it doesn't take long, honestly. I lead this all the time. I can sit with people for 10 minutes and then say, you know, they're asking about their body or a relationship. What wisdom, what's the wisest part of you know about this? And then, whoa, I don't know. I'm out of business now. I don't have to say anything because they understand. You already understand. And so mindfulness is sometimes also called remembering. And in the deepest place, it's remembering who you are or what you are, and that Buddha nature, if you will. And then you get to play. And to sum up what some of our other wise teachers said in Ram Dass's word, he said, you remember your Buddha nature and your social security number, right? You kind of live in both worlds. So thank you.
Your Buddha nature and your social security number. I'm going to steal that one. Oh yeah, but I was, I was once, your old friend Joseph was once giving me some crap about making a living off of his wisdom, and I said I was kind of sheepish, and he said, "Hey, you know, we're all part of a lineage of thieves." Proud lineage. Well, up next is John Kabat-Zinn and Will Kabat-Zinn. I'm not sure they're there. We may be ahead of schedule. Okay, so you know what do you want to?
If you have something you would like to add or questions that you, of course, you know how we're going to respond. What makes you ask? How do you feel about that? You know, how are you holding it?
If you have a question, raise your hand. I'll come to you. It's always the first person that I feel very grateful to. Who's going to go first? I'll just pick somebody.
Or a comment
Yeah,
or an observation.
It could be a complaint.
Yes, and over there in the back.
Oh,
A
I'm already grateful
customer.
to you. What's your name?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lilia. Thank you. My question is, I'm a bit addicted to my phone lately. And I guess my question is, how do I balance or reconcile my need to know and be involved and not be ignorant and my sanity?
So keep the mic with you for a moment. Well, first I want to pause because you're not asking your question, you're asking our question. And I want to ask how many people in the room struggle with how much should I keep track of the news, you know, and how do I, so look around, okay? So that's the first thing. How's it feel to see that, all those hands up? Horrifying?
Yeah.
All right. But we're in it together anyway. We're drowning together.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when I ask you to think of your phone and reaching for it lots of times, just kind of tune into your body. What's that feel like? What's that quality of reaching for it feel like?
Addiction.
Yes. Okay, good. So now close your eyes for a second and sense that this is actually designed to be addictive. So they know how to do it and they've sort of hooked you. Close your eyes and feel that quality of reaching and wanting. And now, what does the wisest part of you have to say about that addiction? Just get quiet and tune in. You can know. What does it say? And say it into the mic when you.
You know better, so do better.
You know better. All right. So it's a little chastising. Okay. You know better. Okay. We know that woman. We know that person. Okay. Now we're carrying on. Okay. So you hear that voice. Now imagine that instead you could have Kuan Yin put her arm around your shoulder. You know, we're still talking. She says, you know, they designed this for you to be addictive. And you know also that it's not really so helpful. The world does not get saved because you spend 30 hours a week read on your phone or whatever it is.
5.5 a day.
5.5 a day, right? In fact, you could be on for half an hour a day and save the world pretty well without those extra 5. So her arms are on your shoulder and she says, I'll be with you. Just pay attention. I'll be with you. And together, we're just going to let this go. What will you do with your other 5 hours, dear? She says. And how do you answer?
Call my 88-year-old mother and have a long conversation.
That's beautiful. Other things, go for a walk, you know, read something that's beautiful instead of uplifting. Okay, last thing. You know, we're all in the program together here. All those hands went up, you know. These are your sponsors. Do you want to do it? Do you want to follow that wisdom? Not even want to, will you? Now you're on the hook because we're all listening.
I think I'm going to turn off my phone unless I actually want to call someone or text someone.
Hallelujah. Okay. Listen to that. Thank you. Thank you for being the first brave person to.
I think you've discouraged anybody else from raising their hands because they see what the torture is going to be. But okay, I'm going to come to you. What's your name? Samantha.
I actually, happy birthday.
Thank you. Hold it up close.
Okay. It makes me nervous. I talked about this with my partner during Tara's 3-minute thing, but I think a lot about discipline versus devotion. Because I find myself like I'm a very disciplined person, so I'll sit and do practices, but sometimes I feel like the devotional piece is missing, not completely, but I don't know if there's a question here or if it's like direction you can offer me or guidance. Maybe it's just too much self-judgment and not enough self-compassion. But yeah.
Maybe. Would you say maybe it's too much self-judgment? What do you think?
Probably.
I mean, I just throw it back to you, not because I'm unwilling to support you and offer some, words, but because I do think my first teacher, when he would say, you already understand, I would get very annoyed. I didn't understand. I felt I didn't understand. But he wasn't talking about that part of the mind that wonders, am I being disciplined? Do I need more devotion? That's really checking and wondering about the practice. He was really talking about the consciousness that takes form as life in the form of you, life in the form of me. That consciousness does already understand. And so the details, I mean, my experience is that there's never a point of perfect balance, that it's always seesawing between maybe too much, a little too over scrupulous with the discipline, or oh, the bhakti, swimming in love, and maybe I don't have to really focus my mind or train it because it's all love. I mean, I'm being silly with the extremes, but Suzuki Roshi, who's been quoted here before, in his book was one of the only 2 Dharma books that existed when I started to practice, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. That book today, it's still as deep as I can go. It's there. It's amazing. So I recommend it. But he talked about things continually falling out of balance against a background of perfect balance. And I think that is maybe a little mysterious sounding, but both are so important, especially if you think of discipline as the courage to follow what you love and do it. You know, when we think discipline, there are many associations we might have, some more savory than others, but think of it that way. That discipline is the courage to follow, disciple, to be a disciple of what you love the most in this life.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And now it really is time. Okay, well, yeah, one more. And then it really is time for John and his son, Will, who happens to be my godson.
Hi, Victor here, and thank you for having this gathering. I've got an easy one. So I read books, I read the news about all the calamities that are happening, climate change, mean politicians, occasional genocide, and I'd like to be able to do something, and I feel very small. And I'm thinking that just sending out compassion rays may not be enough. So what's some good, useful action that we can take?
Thank you. I think, again, if I ask how many people are holding this same question and you raise your hands, I think we all are really asking ourselves this exact same question. It brought tears to my eyes when you asked it. And I think the answer has to be individual, like what are each one of our talents? What are we drawn to doing? What do you care about of all the multi-crises, that we're in? For me, a few years ago, it was refugees, and I went and worked in a refugee camp. That helped me. Action does bind anxiety. So whether it's a small service, we're all small. Our boat is so small and the sea is so big. We're all small, but together, I do believe, and this is our responsibility, all of us together. I really do believe that we can contribute to shaping the world in the way that we want. And that by practicing together, not just, but standing up from practice to have the courage to care and do something about what we care about, that these are teachings of not just personal, but also societal and communal harmony and how to live well with each other, to respect things as they are and to align ourselves with what's deepest and best about humans. I don't have an answer. That's just what I tell myself, what I'm sharing with you. So thank you so much for your question. And now,
John and Will, do we have you? Alexa says yes.
You do if I can unmute.
You can unmute. There we
You've
go.
had us the whole time.
I
we
hear.
can hear you, but
Oh,
we
okay.
can't see you.
Yeah, I can see him in
Can't-
the little square up there, and we can all hear the dulcet tones of JKZ. There he is. Hi, John.
Folks.
Thanks for being with us, John. We can hear you now. So
Okay, I was waiting for you to say something to invite me to talk, but I'm happy to skip that.
you consider yourself perpetually invited to talk.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, first of all, Trudy, happy birthday. Jack, happy birthday. Many of you probably don't know this, but I've probably known Trudy longer than any person on the planet except her immediate family members, because we met when she was 14 and I was 15 in Paris. And we've had intersecting karma ever since. And correct me if I'm wrong, Trudy, because, you know, any story is, in some sense, a kind of potentially corrupt memory. I think it was I that introduced you to Sansanin and got you started in the meditation practice, which I don't remember how deep into it I was, but I think I started like 4 or 5 years before that when Philip Kapleau came to MIT. So there's this, you know, Dharma arising in the world. It happened for the two of us really very early in life, in our 20s, when it was really kind of perceived by the mainstream as the far side of the lunatic fringe. And now I don't think it's an exaggeration that the work of everybody who's contributed this evening to this program, and thousands of other Dharma teachers near and far, that the Dharma is moving into the world in ways that would have been unimaginable 60 or 70 years ago, unimaginable, but that were in fact predicted by the British historian Arnold Toynbee, who said that he was a little ahead of his time, I think, but he said that in the end, the 20th century might be most known, and of course, more people were slaughtered in wars in the 20th century than in all previous wars up to that point. That he said that the 20th century might become known more than anything else for the arrival of Buddha Dharma in the West. And I think the fact that we're even having this celebration and that we can celebrate in this kind of way, not just your birthdays, but a certain kind of potentiality of the Sangha in a moment of what can really only be described as the full catastrophe of the human condition. Because if we told ourselves 10 years ago that we would be seeing this in what's happening to our government, to our Supreme Court, to our president, to Congress, to everything else, we would have dismissed it as kind of out of hand. And it is happening now. We see forces arising that are, you know, sort of undeniably autocratic in ways that have happened many, many other times on in different parts of the world. And so I won't go into all of the dynamics about that, but to simply say that this is an all hands on planet Earth moment, especially since on top of all the autocracy and the fascism and the, you know, challenges and threats to government and to democracy, there's also the climate crisis, which is referred to as a polycrisis because it's the oceans and it's the air and it's the you know, the land and everything. There's so many different things going on that are all the product of human activity, and it's almost as if we could say that human beings are the autoimmune disease of planet Earth, that we are the agent of the disease and also the first to suffer, although that's, of course, questionable, but we're so self-centered that our suffering speaks to us perhaps more than that of other species, which is a cause for really expanding mindfulness and awareness. So just to say that I see that this kind of turmoil and the sorrow and the suffering, unnecessary suffering that's been created far and wide, and it leads to fear and uncertainty, is the perfect moment for wisdom practices to move into the mainstream even more than they have so far, and give us, in some sense, both the tools and the imagination to solve the following koan. Is it possible for human beings on planet Earth to actually make it through to some kind of homeostatic balance that will ensure future generations of life as we know it and with the values that we value going forward. And, you know, all the data says that up till now, things have been moving in the direction of creating less violence, greater education for women, greater, you know, health care, people being healthy all over that before were not, didn't have any health care available to them. That we live in a world that where we are so interconnected, it's remarkable. But still, the challenge is, can we tap into the name that, the species name that Linnaeus gave us, Homo sapiens sapiens, the species that is aware and is aware that it is aware. So awareness and meta-awareness, nothing to do with cognition. And that's what the practice of mindfulness, that's what Dharma practice is all about, is everybody who's spoken today has so powerfully conveyed, from Tara to George to Jack to Joseph to everybody who will speak, that we're all in some sense playing in a Dharma orchestra that transcends its origins, in the sense that there are many, many different wisdom traditions in the world. I consider it extremely hopeful that the Pope is who the Pope is these days. And we'll see. But that has tremendous potential to actually influence millions of people worldwide, because we need to wake up as a species to that name we gave ourselves. Because if we don't, the hell realms that will be created will not be livable for anybody. And we talk about all beings, talking about far greater than just human beings. So the only thing that I know that humans have actually discovered in the past, say, 5,000 or 6,000 years of civilization is mindfulness writ large. Not different from compassion, because in all Asian languages, the word for mind and the word for heart, it's the same word. And we've been feeling it pour out of everybody who's spoken. And that has the potential to stabilize us in times of tremendous not knowing, tremendous fear, tremendous complicity in silence, tremendous moral injury from watching genocides unfold and be actually promoted in places like the UN without having a voice. So we need to claim our voice. We need to find our voice, and we need to know what to say so that we're actually not falling into the dualism of us and them that Tara so magnificently and so poetically enunciated. There is no them. There's only us. And yes, minds collapse into particular kind of views that can actually lead to unbelievable greed, hatred, delusion, and ignorance. And that's our karmic assignment, so to speak, is to, as best we can, all of us, everybody, I'm talking not just people who see themselves as mindfulness teachers or spiritual teachers, but practitioners, human beings, everybody, take responsibility for our little piece of it and stretch the envelope by asking the koan, what would it mean for me to stretch the envelope and actually not be impeded by too much fear and diffidence, while at the same time not being stupid? And I feel, I have a deep sense that if people can do that, and that's what we're celebrating today with in our generation, the incredible arrival of this kind of Dharma and its widespread movement into the world, including into business and medicine and science and neuroscience and education and all sorts of other domains, that this is not for its own sake. This is for the sake of the world. And so in a sense, we have to face this non-dualistically, because if we get into using and theming, so as the teachings say, there's no place to go, nothing to do, and nothing to attain. And when you orient in that way, the Heart Sutra, the Prajna Paramita Sutra, all attainment is possible. And it's already possible and actualized right here in this moment by your intentionality and by your practice. So this is a beautiful birthday party because it's not just like singing happy birthday and bringing you some kind of presents you'll repurpose to other people or whatever. But it's really a phenomenal opportunity for people who've been friends across much of our adult lives. And Dan, I include you in this. I mean, I just love you and I love what you're trying to do in the ways that you have helped catalyze and give voice to Dharma in various kinds of ways. That it's just a love affair, taking our seats every morning after 40 or 50 years. It dawned on me that it is actually a love affair. It's not one more thing I have to do. It's an actual love affair with the beauty of life in this present moment with things exactly as they are and our infinite degrees of possibility for aligning with what's deepest and best in ourselves and offering that to the world. So once again, happy birthday. And it's beautiful to be in the same room. What Zoom allows us to do, as you all know, is to be in the same room no matter where we are. And ultimately, it's the room of the human heart. It surrounds the entire planet. And so I want to celebrate your birthdays and also celebrate how much, I won't call it work, but how much play we still can engage in to heal ourselves and the world.
Take your time. Alexis is working the. Can we have a hand for Alexis, everybody, who's done a lot of work today? I admire both your skill and your optimism. I think Will and John were just finished teaching a retreat together at the Omega Institute in upstate New York. My son travels with me, has no interest in what I do, but he once told me, I don't mind traveling in coach if the plane doesn't have business class. So that's the Dharma transmission that I have successfully. Just be okay. Okay. Spring says I should just be patient with my son. Yeah. What about when I wake up in the morning and he looks up from his video game and says, "Good morning, dummy"? Okay, Alexis has figured it out. Okay. All right, there he is. Look at that handsome punum.
Are we ready?
Well, you grew your hair out. Last time I saw you, you had a buzz cut, buddy.
I know nobody recognizes me. I'm in disguise.
Yeah, well,
All you need to do is grow hair.
I think you look great. You look great, whatever coif you choose.
That's all that matters to me, Dan. Thank you. So great to be here with all of you. You see my father and I did a quick change. We're sitting in the same spot because we were, as Dan mentioned, we were just teaching together in New York. So I'm visiting with them on my way home. But what a treat. Let's see if I can, yeah, what a treat to be with, hold all of you and to celebrate Jack and Trudy. I can't see you. You look very tiny from where I am, but I can see your beautiful faces in my mind. And as was mentioned, as Trudy mentioned, she is my godmother. And this feels to me like a kind of Dharma family gathering. I was just in my father's basement with him, looking at some photos, and we saw some photos of you, George, teaching at the clinic in the 90s. Beautiful photos of you. And yeah, lovely to hear all of the beautiful and powerful teaching. Jack, thank you for being you. And wonderful, again, to celebrate these two incredible beings and all of you. And so in all, you see the beautiful different expressions. It's like we all love one thing, what we call Dharma, and yet so many different expressions. And so I didn't prepare anything for tonight, I must say. We were full on, but I guess what I feel moved to share after the retreat. So we were with a few hundred people, and you know, some people who I've seen for many years, and I'm struck by this with all of you all sitting up on the stage as well, who've just been in it for a long time. You know? And over time, I've really come to trust just people who have been in it for a while. You know, sometimes students come and to practice and so confused, so full of suffering. And sometimes it's not even clear, you know, what people are doing. Why are we here? But again, over time, that there's something inside that nature, our beautiful nature, which is just like it's right here. You know? So the issue for me, and part of why I'm so moved to teach and to practice, is that there's so many great ideas in the world, right? We can hear endless great ideas about love and awareness and helping each other and seeing each other's beauty. But without a practice, I don't know how we would actualize that. And so to me, what brings us together is not just our nature, which is we share with all beings, but this recognition that we have a basic wakefulness inside of us, and we need to see what is present as it is. So if awareness is functioning now, we choose, and this is the radical act in my view, we choose to include what is here. This is the courageous act. This is the not easy act, to choose what is actually happening and to include it in awareness. One of the things I love about Trudy is her honesty. Did you hear that in her share? She said, I love Jack most of the time. Love it. You know, that's very important. In Dharma, honesty is the most important thing. If we're not honest with ourselves about what is actually here, we will not practice with it. And what we see in the world is the result of us not looking at our own minds, looking at our own heart, looking at our own anger and fear, our own greed and aversion, not observing our own thoughts. It's like, to me, that's the radical teaching of the Buddha, which is just in the Satipatthana Sutta. It's so incredibly simple. It's almost hidden in plain sight. Breathing, we know we're breathing. Standing, we know we're standing. Walking, one understands I'm walking. Sitting, we know we're sitting. Speaking, we know we're speaking. remaining silent also. And of course, many of you know how the text unfolds from there. Feeling a pleasant feeling, we know it. Feeling an unpleasant feeling, we know it. Emotions, moods, mind states. The beautiful, the ugly, the dangerous, the scary, fear included. So it's amazing to me. It's like when we can include what is happening in awareness, we're not collapsed into it. We don't become a fragment. We don't become this little identity. So that's our core practice. And so importantly, so many of you have referenced political situation, the climate, or what do we do? Sometimes, this is my criticism of all of you. I'm just joking. I'm half joking. This is my invitation to you. Sometimes when your thoughts accord with your understanding of things, you forget to look at them. It's very easy when we think, oh, this is true. What is happening is true, because there actually is suffering. You're seeing things. It's easy to stop watching your mind. And this is very dangerous. It's very dangerous because I see so many beautiful, good-hearted people who have defeated themselves before we even begin by the story of how it's all over, or how terrible the world is, or the world is on fire. In a way, again, we have to look at cause and effect. And this is what the Buddha was inviting us to do. Is it skillful? Right? So sometimes people ask, say, are you saying thoughts are not real? I say, no, thoughts are really thoughts. Right? That's really important for us to know. So again, you can see this sometimes, even in Dharma practitioners, when they speak to you, you can see they've collapsed into the narrative. Even again, a narrative you might agree with, even a narrative about saving the world, even a narrative about helping each other. If we collapse into the narrative, what do we lose? We lose the vastness of our own being. We lose our open-heartedness. We lose our connectedness in the present. Right? We lose touch. It's not that we lose our nature, we just lose touch with our nature momentarily. This expansive nature, this beautiful nature, our heart, our beautiful heart. So that's, again, can't remember when I started or how much time I have, but to me, this is why we're here together. Ultimately, it's wonderful that we're supporting InsightLA. We were doing a benefit for another center earlier today. It's like so important to support these Dharma nodes, these nodes of liberation, these places where we can gather together like we are right now and recognize this basic situation right here and actually practice with it. All right, so may we all continue to do this in our own unique way. And I know all of you on the stage are doing this in your own way, and I'm sure so many of you are. Let's not forget to apply it fully and completely right here. And that is a moment. Oh, I'll say one more thing. That's a moment by moment thing. That's where the practice lives. It lives here and now. It's a moment by moment thing. It's not, if you make it a grandiose thing, it becomes too big and too hard to approach because we can't do anything about future moments right now. It's a moment to moment thing. It's the core of the Buddhist teaching, and it's what we can support each other in here and now. So thank you all very much. Happy birthday, Jack and Trudy. Beautiful beings. All of you beautiful beings. Love seeing your shining faces. And till
Thank
the
you,
next time.
Will. Great to see you. And I'm happy to say I'll be seeing you in a couple of weeks.
I look forward to that too, Dan.
Okay. See you, bud. Thank you. Thanks to your dad as well. Okay, time now for one of the most important teachers in my life, Spring Washam.
Oh, that's really sweet. And I feel so happy and also touched by this Dharma. I don't want to say buffet, but it is kind of like that, right? You're like, oh, that's my favorite one. Oh yeah, let me get a little more of that and a little more of that. And it also reminds me of at our center many years ago, East Bay Meditation Center, we used to fundraise by doing a 24-hour Dharmathon. And we would put out all this stuff like 24 hours of Dharma. You remember that, Thomas? It'd be like, and we would either rent this church in downtown Oakland right by Lake Merritt, or we would have our Dharmathon at our center, and all these people would raise money, and we'd count down the hours. And I was always brought in as like the kickoff teacher, and then we would have all these teachers scheduled like hour by hour. This was going to come in at 11:30, and then 1 o'clock this teacher would give a talk, and then the idea was that you practice nonstop for 24 hours, and then at the end of it we would have this huge amount of money, and then we would celebrate. It was so fun. And I would also be called to come in at the end. So they would say, Spring, you got to do the first hour and you have to do the last hour. And I'd be like, great, okay. And sometimes I would, come and go, but there's something about this that you're a Dharmathon, but for 80 years, and I wanted to say a couple of stories. And I know Jack especially Jack hates when teachers say good things and fawn over him, but you'll just have to suffer through it right now. And Trudy doesn't mind as much. She's like, praise me. Yes, it's all true. I know it is. We could bow at your feet, both of you. Because wow, being a bodhisattva is hard. Yes, we know we need extra praise and love and compassion. But I just first want to start off by thinking about your resiliency. And I want to say some things about you first, Trudy, because I've learned so much from you by just you being in my life and me just witnessing your journey. And I've gone through a lot of traumas in the last year and a half, moving to Georgia, trying to start a Dharma project. And I got hit by this truck, a DHL truck, and I called Trudy, and Trudy, I started to remember all your stories of resiliency. I'll never forget. I called Trudy Bootsy because 15, 16 years ago, I saw you at Spirit Rock. You were on a retreat with these red boots. And I was like, who is this woman prancing around the center? So cute with these bright red rain boots. So in my mind, you know how we make up stories about people on retreat? I was like, oh, she's Bootsy. I didn't know her name at the time. You were already a teacher and all this, but I had never met you. And it might have been 18 years. I'm not sure. It was way before my teacher training. And as I was remembering your boots and calling you Bootsy, I remember talking to you about the accident, and you said, well, Springy, I got hit by a truck too. And then you started telling me the story. And then I remember shortly after I met you, you broke your back. And you were like, yes, my back was broken. And you were walking around Spirit Rock with ski poles. And you were like, it's okay. I had a great time. My back's broken. By the way, I'm a little shorter, but it's all going to be all right. And then a couple years ago, Bootsy almost died in Costa Rica. And it was like, everybody was rallying there. And you were like, yeah, but now I have this great wig. It's all, and my life's never been sweeter. And every time you would tell me about this like betrayal or almost dying, or you would say, but my life now, Springy, it's so fun. And I would think, who could survive all of that? It was like life and death and betrayal and kids and grandchildren and scandals and getting married. I think you guys were on a Ferris wheel, the proposal on the Ferris wheel at 70 something, close to 70s, 68 somewhere. But like that kind of resiliency is why I love my elders right now, and why being a practitioner for 80 years. See, you become like the big tree in the forest. And Jack and Trudy, you're those big trees for so many of us, right? And I remember I met Jack in my early 20s. We were remember those retreats out in Yucca Valley? Does anyone remember? Raise your hand if you went on a 10-day. Exactly. They were so good. And I remember meeting you at the end of the retreat, or somehow I showed up on your list of students. And I remember you staring at me being like, who are you? I was like, Spring. And at that moment you became my big tree. Right. And you don't understand when you're a baby tree and you're younger and you're practicing, you need those wise elders to stand as the big tree. That's how mycelium works in the forest. That's how the earth, the big trees are constantly sending light, energy, and compassion. Big trees, like those redwoods, that just on, and you give out so much by just existing. So there's something precious about 80. And there's something precious about all of us as we're aging to remember the next generation that comes after. Now I feel like I'm growing, I'm learning how to grow into a big tree, right? I'm learning that. That's a gift, a responsibility, and a privilege all at the same time. It's like, well, I better make sure I have what's necessary to give to these baby trees coming up right now, everybody, who are being raised in this climate of hatred and fear that they're seeing everywhere. So it's a responsibility that we all have to take in the Dharma so our roots are strong. And so there's something about at the end of those Dharmathons was like this birthday party. Everybody was blissed out, exhausted, and also filled. It was like we put so much in those cups hour after hour, and they ran out of there and they were just flying, flying down the street or we're like, Jack's gonna die. But a couple of weeks later, no, that was all a mistake. Guess what? I'm alive. I'm gonna live, right? And to just remember that stalker woman who was out for you, and we thought I have seen so many things happen, and there's that resiliency. There's that not only the resiliency, there's that this was a serious stalker woman that was out for Jack for a long time. I don't know, she's in jail, and she was out for Trudy. I won't get into the details, but I was there when the notes were left on cars and I don't know, cases were filed, but all of that stuff. But this is what it's like. And you know what I saw was them both being so resilient. And it was like just meeting it as another thing. And also, you know, both of them, they mirror joy and compassion. Trudy is sort of this butterfly flying around. And Jack, you're really like this ancient being. Okay, I don't mean not ancient. I didn't mean it like that. You know, we don't want to talk about them being too old because that is still, in our culture, but I love it. I feel like we need to rally around the elders. Anyway, you're still young and cute, Jack. But I remember just learning so much about love and compassion through you. And I remember taking bodhisattva vows with you And I remember you giving bodhisattva vows at the end of all the 1 month retreats. Remember that? We used to bring out the string and we would we would remember. So a life lived for the benefit of all beings. What a beautiful life. Like you could stand at the end and feel like I did everything I can to carry the lamp of love and compassion. So even though I'm lighthearted, I'm also extremely serious about this moment in our culture, in our world, about the importance. And that's the last thing I'll say is about your heart. I don't really care that much about what people say with their mind or how much they know. I just want to, can I feel you? You know how everybody says that, young people now, I don't feel you. Like they can't feel the heart is developed. And that's really what we're practicing is love. We're practicing how to meet this moment with compassion, are we not? Like there's something about and I love how we talked about it, all the suffering breaks open the heart center, right? It gets us radically present. It gets us more connected to what's true. We're not here long, everybody. There is an expiration date. We don't know it, but we know there are expiration dates on everything that exists. The strawberries in your refrigerator and these bodies. And so there's something about the poignancy of our times, the tragedy of this recent accident and your 80th birthday that's reminding me of the importance of the path of the Buddha and all of the Buddhas, and also the path of love and resiliency. We rise again. We laugh again. James Baldwin, one of my favorite writers and poets, he was once having a conversation with Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou's birthday was the same day Dr. King was murdered. And she fell into a terrible depression and he knocked on her door. She was locked up in her house for 4 days and couldn't move of grief and sadness over the assassination of Dr. King. And he pulled her out and he said, "Get out of this house right now." And they were in Brooklyn. "Get out of this house right now." And she got up, opened the door. The only person she would open the door for. She opened the door for James. She got up and he took her down to this bar and they were having some drinks. And he said, "Maya, you know why we will survive as a people? Our joy, our love." Right. So if you do go out onto the streets or you try to do an action in this world, make sure, please, that is rooted in the heart. Otherwise, you're just doing more damage than good. You'll think you're helping, but you're not. You want to do something right now for the benefit of all beings, develop the heart where we hold all of this. Right now, we have to hold witness to so much sorrow. Develop the heart that can hold it and then respond from that place. Our liberation isn't going to come from thinking about ideas. It's going to come from deep in your body, deep in the heart chakra. You will rise up out of that bed and you will know what to do. And it may not make sense to anybody. And it might not even make sense to your mind. It might be putting yourself in danger, but you know it'll be for a good cause. You won't even have to think about it. You just move. So we give thanks for you two big trees and all of us baby trees and all of us in the middle, Dan and George are big trees too. I know you are, Dan. You're becoming that big redwood and we're all going to be sitting, together, reminding ourselves that every moment we are nurturing not just ourselves, but the ecosystems of all beings. So I think the practice that I'll do, I don't know what time it is either. That's a theme. So I probably should stop because I could go on for a long time with my heart messages. So I want to make sure everyone has a time, but I would love to do a little heart practice. So it's almost time for Sharon's recording. But maybe I'll just do a little heart prayer. Okay. So Tuesday nights, right before the election, I started teaching Tuesday nights a heart medicine course. So not a course, but a weekly sangha. So this is just some tips from that sangha. Okay, everybody. So I'm just gonna have you let us all just close our eyes and maybe put your hands on your heart. Right? There's a heart chakra. We want to activate it right now. It's a good time for activation. I'll just take a breath in and out. And we just offer some metta prayers. And I like to use the prayer, may my heart be happy and peaceful. See if you can really root that down. May my heart be happy and peaceful. See if you could just take a breath, almost the heart is breathing, the heart chakra is alive, it has its own language, its own brain. We know this through science. May my heart be safe and protected. May my heart be healthy and strong in this body. And may my heart live with ease and joy and well-being. So we're doing metta for our hearts. They might feel broken and bruised. But the more we offer metta, the more we allow the heart to hold what the mind cannot. And there's great wisdom in the heart. It's far beyond the egoic consciousness. So we just breathe this kindness and friendliness in through the heart center. Breathe out for all beings. May all of our hearts, let's go to the global collective level, 8 billion people, the animals and the whales and the forests and the trees, Mother Earth. May the heart be safe and protected. All of our hearts, the great heart. May our hearts live with ease and joy, well-being. May our hearts be healthy and strong. Let's merge our hearts with the great hearts of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. So we imagine right now all of the energy from the universe, all the beings who walk this path of the noble heart, the ethical heart, from Nelson Mandela to Harriet Tubman to Cesar Chavez, to all of the benevolent beings, Tara and Kuan Yin, we merge our hearts. Imagine all that light is coming into your heart. We activate. Amen. Hallelujah. We're in a church. Let the church say amen. Amen. And last thing I want to say, because I felt it was a hopeful story. You guys might have seen this. I was on Delta flight yesterday, and I was wondering, oh, what am I going to watch? It's almost 5-hour flight. Then I saw this thing called 52 gigahertz about this whale. They named called 52 gigahertz. I thought it was strange too. So I was like, what's this whale and 52 gigahertz? What kind of documentary is this? And then I saw the executive producers were really beautiful activists and filmmakers. And I thought 52. Anyway, this is why it's hopeful. There was a story about when they were recording whale songs in the 60s because the humpback whales, the bluefin whales, and the great whales were being decimated all over the world. People were just killing them for not only sport, but food. It was really, really awful. It was just so upsetting. But then a group of people, the Navy actually started coming up with these recordings when they were doing recordings of like war stuff. They started hearing whale songs. And then in the 60s, they released some of the best albums in the world. You got to love the 60s, was these whale songs, right? And that led to a worldwide movement of protect these whales. Their songs were so beautiful, right? Just harmonic and the intelligence of whales and all this stuff. So in that archive, they heard of a gigahertz of a certain frequency that they named those whale 52. They couldn't locate this particular sound frequency, right? And they know whales, their songs go out 10,000 miles, right? The grid, they can hear each other all over, and they float by sound, and they journey with, and some whales can live 80, 90, 100 years. So beautiful. So they had this mystery of this whale. And so people got fascinated, and they started to say, oh no, there's this whale out there with no other whales. And they dipped him the loneliest whale in the ocean. And you could find this. It's like, I didn't know about this till I watched the documentary, and kids were singing, it's a lonely whale, and scientists all over the world, lonely whale, 70s, 80s. They kept finding this sound of this whale that was alone. They couldn't, find any other recording. So the whole documentary, which kind of was a little annoying, was these guys out there going, we're going to find the whale, and making this huge production, and they were tagging all the whales, kind of creating more of a problem in my mind, right? And we're, had all the biologists and film and all this stuff. They did find the whale. It was in California. That's why I thought it was interesting. It was off the coast here. And they could never find the exact whale, but what they found was that there were all these other whales making the same sound that they had never heard. It's like this frequency. And so what they discovered was San Diego. They said that the whale's not alone. Because the biggest thing was everyone thought it was the loneliest whale in the world, and everyone was like crying, it's lonely. And anyway, I just thought it was sweet. The whale's not alone, everybody. 52 gigahertz is together. It found its whale tribe, and they're floating around California, San Diego, somewhere right at this moment. They seem to be living in this area. And it just gave me hope for us that somehow if we could just come together and hear the frequency. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but thank you guys.
It definitely makes sense. Thank you, Spring. One last teacher appearance, and it's Sharon Salzberg, who is going to appear via Zoom, pre-recorded, with a brief message for Jack and Trudy and the rest of us. Here we go, Sharon.
Hi, everybody. The first thing I want to say is happy birthday, Jack and Trudy, which also brings to mind how many, many years I have known each of you, and how that evokes so much a sense of the passage of time. It's really strange, and beautiful and not so beautiful, all of the things. And that reminds me of this quotation from the Buddha, which I love, where the Buddha said, life is like an echo. It's like a rainbow. It's like a dream. Life is like a drop of dew on a blade of grass, like a flash of lightning in a summer sky. I've loved this image for a very long time because it feels to me like it conveys both sides of life, like the one side, which is the incredible fragility, the evanescence of life that sometimes we want to hold on really badly and we cannot hold on to anything. But it also allows for the fact that everything arises. It's all happening. It's like a rainbow, all of these colors, all this magical display, which allows for understanding both sides of change, that beautiful, wondrous side of beginnings and openings and renewal and springtime, and also dissolution and the need to really let go, because this is the truth of things. Everything arises, all the colors of the rainbow, the magical display of joys and sorrow and coming and going. And how much of that have we experienced together in these last like 50 some years? And when I think about that, I think so often about that level of the display where everything is arising, it's all happening, and how it's not random. That actions are consequential. What we do matters. What we care about matters. That the loving kindness and generosity and the compassion that we put into the world, it matters. Living as we do in such a blatantly nihilistic time, this seems like such an important thing to remember. Our actions have consequences. What we care about, it makes a difference. This is the source. This is the feed out of the arising of what we see and know and hear and feel and experience and encounter all of the time. We have so many shared moments of all kinds. And we met as much younger people on a giant adventure of discovery. That's the Dharma. We've had teachers and mentors that we've been challenged by and that we've loved, and we've also had to let go of. We've grown older and have had health challenges and healings and lots of wisdom, hopefully, that has accrued. We've had loss of some whom we've loved quite a lot. It's all happened and happening and will happen. And yet the fundamental understanding is that it is a display. Life is like an echo. It's like a rainbow. It's like a drop of dew on a blade of grass. And I just want to express my tremendous personal gratitude about the fact that we get to share this adventure together. And I, just offer you this tremendous congratulations. You have each also, by the way, founded institutions that will endure beyond our temporal time on this earth. Jack certainly with IMS and Spirit Rock, and Trudy with InsightLA, on whose behalf we are gathering together on this day. So thank you.
Okay. We're almost at time. I just want to finish with a quick anecdote and then a pitch. The anecdote, just to follow up on the jokes we were making about my son. A couple of years ago, after him making fun of me relentlessly since his exit from the womb, the principal of his school called me and said, yeah, Alexander's been leading loving kindness meditation around the school. And the high school heard about it, and they want him to come and teach the high school students. This was the first I was hearing of it. So yeah, they do pick it up. Which kind of leads me to the pitch. Shot through the proceedings today was and has been a sense of dread and fear about what's happening in the world, which I share. What we know is that one of the best ways to navigate a time like this is, in the words of some brilliant psychologist whose names I have forgotten, never worry alone. In the Dharma, the Buddha talks very explicitly about what he calls the three jewels I am, compared to everybody else on this stage, quite new to the Dharma. So I will be spiritually audacious and critique Western Dharma in one regard, which is that the three jewels, the Buddha, which is sort of the avatar of the potential for awakening, the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, and the Sangha, which is the community of meditators. In our Western, distracted, dislocated, isolated world, the third jewel has become a bit of an asterisk, but that was not the original design. And one way to never worry alone and not forget the third jewel is to take part in what Will Kabat-Zinn called your local node of Dharma, which in your case is InsightLA. And these folks, including Melissa and Alexis and many others, are doing extraordinary amount of work to offer weekly sessions, also residential retreats with their partner at Big Bear Retreat Center. This is where I'm reading from the notes. Day-long retreats. So you should participate for your own benefit, for your own practice, because I think it will meet the very deep need that's been expressed over and over again by the folks in the audience and the speakers here for some sort of sustenance and strength in the middle of a really trying time. I also would add, in the spirit of enlightened self-interest, it might make sense to give these folks some money so they can keep doing what they do, which is extraordinarily important. So I would just leave you with that gentle, actually not so gentle, muscular reminder to do the right thing for yourself and for the organization and for your community. Melissa, what did I miss? Okay. Love you guys. Happy birthday. Oh, I did miss something. We have a little gift for the birthday boy and girl. And this is a book filled with testimony from the people who love you. And girl. Wow, I got some daggers there. So you'll at
Jack and Trudy throughout. It says Jack and Trudy. This one even says Trudy and Jack. How about that, baby? And that one says just Trudy. Okay. Here you are, dear.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Melissa, for organizing this. Thank you, Jack and Trudy. Take care.